Hey there, this is Pastor Micah from Life Journey United Church of Christ. Just pausing for a video reflection here to help us find center in the midst of our week. Before I do so, I want to remind everybody this Saturday um, uh, we're going to have our pet blessing on the lawn at the church beginning Saturday at 10. Please do contact me. I'll let me know what time you might come by. So I am available to make sure we can see about any pets you do bring. Make sure I'm there and that we're not overloaded and can plan things out. This past week in our sermon, I talked with you all about how God calls Moses to help set God's people free and names God's self to Moses using the name Yahweh, which is the sound of the human breath going in and out. Yahweh, Yahweh. We talked about how this name for God points to the fact that no matter what we are struggling with, we are not alone. God sees, and God hears, God knows, and is with us through our struggles, whatever they are. This coming Sunday, we're going to hone in on the time after God has freed Israel from slavery, when they are wandering through the wilderness in search of a home. And we're going to look at how God provides bread for their journey. As we pause midweek, and I try to think about what speaks to our lives, bridging between these two Sundays. Think of another side to the name God gives Moses as something worth thinking about. In saying they are the God who lives, the God who is, God, by calling God's self Yahweh, God is also calling into question our images for God and those things we prop up as if of central importance. In God's place. When Moses confronts Pharaoh, crying out for his people to be set free, God sends 10 plagues on Egypt. This is because of the truth Martin Luther King spoke of when he said that freedom is never given voluntarily by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed. These plagues are aimed at causing the people of Egypt, and especially Pharaoh, their ruler, to realize their need to give up on the path of oppression and discrimination. Yet these plagues are also aimed at showing that the different gods worshipped and honored in the Egyptian empire are not really gods at all. This is important because it is their faith in these gods which is used by the Egyptians and Pharaoh especially to justify their very systems of oppression in Egypt that keep Moses' people enslaved. By the end of these 10 plagues, it is clear that God is saying, I am the God who is, the God who lives. And by contrast, these gods whom, when people have faith in them, are used to justify oppression, are not real and living at all. It can feel weird in our day and age, a time in which we tend not to believe in plagues as literal acts of God, in which many people either don't think about gods at all or view all the different names for gods in different religions as just different faces or symbols of one true living God. To think of the meaning of this meaning of God's name, Yahweh, or the God who is, a reminder of our need to put aside idols or false gods. I think the challenge of this story to consider whether what we worship is really God or not is important. The Bible condemns idolatry because of how easy it is to replace the real God in our mind with images of God we created. Anne Lamott sums up why succinctly by saying, you can safely assume that you've created God in your own image when it turns out that God hates all the same people you do. Think about that for a second. So often, it is how often faith is used to justify discrimination against women, against LGBT people, against minorities. In those cases, God is equated with things like white privilege or the straight approach to life, with getting ahead and capitalistic dreams. You name it. And far too often, idols can also be the things you put in center stage. Your career, your reputation, your wealth, your politics, that take the place of things that matter most. That is what Meister Eckhart meant when he prayed, God, rid me of God, that I might know God. At the end of the day, we are called to lay aside the clutter of false images of God we carry and really embrace God as God is, not as we imagine God to be. This week, I want to challenge you to do this, to take some time and ask, what are you living for? What values are God in your life? And to pray with Meister Eckhart for God to help you lay aside false images to God so you might know God better as God is. Here's one hint to help you determine the answer to this in your life. Talmud, a Jewish commentary on Scripture, says, do not be daunted by the enormity of the world's grief. Do justly now. Love mercy now. Walk humbly now. You're not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to abandon it. Ultimately, this measuring stick, taken from Micah 6:8, the verse in the Bible I'm named for, is a good reflection on if you are replacing God with an idol, an image of your own imagining, or if you are turning some part of your life into an idol in God's place. You can ask yourself this: how is what you are putting in the center of your life leading you to deal better with your heart, grief, and all? And ask yourself this: how is it leading you to do justly in your relationships and in the world? You can ask yourself this: how is it inspiring you to show mercy and compassion, or squelching this voice within you? In what ways does it lead you to walk mindfully with humility and wonder at life, treating your faith as a daily walk, one day at a time? May we each take time, consider, and to open our hearts. I hope you have a great week, and I hope to see you Sunday, either at our worship service in person, or perhaps, if you can't join in person, joining us via Facebook Live for worship at Life's Journey, United Church of Christ, where whoever you are and wherever you find yourself on your life's journey, you are welcome here with us. See you then. God bless.